Well, joining us here at Beach FM is Mark Van Leewarden. I have been looking forward to this interview ever since I read his book, Crime Time. It's a true story about someone who went from an undercover cop at a very young age to an international investigator. Mark, welcome to Beach FM.
Thanks very much, Catherine.
I could not put this book down. It's a ridiculously good read. Where did you get the idea of putting this all down on paper for potentially the criminals you've arrested to come back and have a bit of a read about it? Why did you decide to put the book together?
It was about 6 years ago, and I was contacted by Alan Duff of Once a Warriors fame, and he'd seen a media article about me, approached me and said, "Can I write a book about your adventures?" I said, "Oh, okay, that's fine." So we chewed the fat, and he went off and went to write the book. And then he came back to me and said, "Look, I can't do this because it needs your voice." So he said, "Why don't you write it?" And I didn't even think I could write a book. And furthermore, I didn't think that the contents of what I'd been through was anything particularly special.
Really?
He disavowed me of that. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But he disavowed me of that view. And so I set about writing it, and he really supported me and mentored me through it. And Crime Time's the result.
Well, I can see why it would have that affiliation from someone who's put together that sort of genre, because it kind of has that feel about it. You didn't go undercover cop in Kandala or Oriental Bay. You went in, you were in some very dangerous parts of the country. Is it youth that allowed you to be put into that position where you didn't really think too far ahead of it, or did you know what you were going into when you went undercover? And tell us how old you were when you went into being an undercover cop.
You have no idea what it's going to be like, and it's hopelessly uninformed consent when you agree to do it.
Yeah.
But I was only 20, so modulator's not functioning that well at that age. And, to me it was an adventure. Even those that are putting you into the scene, they don't know what it's going to be like either.
True.
So, yeah, and you don't know that you're going to be disappearing like for a year without contact, and you actually don't know the type of characters that you're going to come across either.
Tell us about some of these characters that you did come across, ones that stand out the most to you.
I mean, they were all interesting, British, because they're hardcore criminals and that's their life.
Yeah.
So they all had, that some of them were friends as well as interesting people. They lived and breathed and died for crime.
Do you find that you had to become friends with these people? So these people, you had to become friends with the people you're undercover, you're watching them. Did you genuinely become friends with them and then have to basically take yourself away from them after all the investigations were done? Or could you separate those two things?
It's sort of like you have this moray that you run with, whereby you know what you're out there with, so you're always out there doing. So you're always thinking that at some point that's going to be disclosed. So there's always that sort of ceiling.
Yeah.
But as a friendship up until that point, there's no doubt about that. When I terminated, and there's 125 cops there at 5 a.m, and all the search warrants are going to be done, and it's your last day. And then you have to front those people. That's very difficult. And even when I fronted some of them, and they were told that I was an undercover agent, even when I was in the room talking to them and telling them, they still didn't believe it.
That must have been so difficult to do. I know you were there to do a job, but 20, I had no idea when I was 20. And we are talking about, big drug dealers, people who will put a hit out on you if they know that you're a narc or an undercover cop. These are seriously violent criminals that you were dealing with, and you were 20, having to be mates with them and go out drinking and getting blottoed so that your cover wasn't, revealed. And you also didn't have any support except for one person in the police, otherwise your cover would still be blown. You're on your own, basically.
Yeah, you are. You are on your own.
How did you deal with that mentally? How did you keep yourself sane through that time?
There's little things that I used to do, like I used to go to the movies in the middle of the day, in the darkness of a movie theatre, and try and get some respite. But it was difficult because you're out there all the time, and you can't afford to drop your guard at any time when you're out there. So it's 24/7, every minute of every day. You know, that you make a mistake, or you see someone that you've known from your previous life, or someone that you've trained within the police. And then there's just so that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Then it's dangerous anyway, just doing your normal criminal business. Deals, buying stolen property, that sort of stuff.
So this was back in the 70s, so you're dealing with all these criminals, and then jump forward a little bit of time, then you go off, because that wasn't enough for you, Mark. You had to go off and sort of chase Russian mafia and international gangs and things that my head just kind of went, it's amazing what you've ended up doing. How did you decide after you left that undercover cop to then keep going, doing what you did? I mean, there were some things that led you towards that were disappointing, but did you always think that you wanted to stay within the police and investigating?
Yeah, stay with investigation as opposed to the police.
Yeah.
I saw that at that time, even though it was a very fledgling industry, that there'd be a good fusion between investigation and law, and hence that's why I did my law degree and became a barrister, and have really developed a practice that is in the law but investigation based. So, I think that you have an innate sort of desire to be hunting people, and that folded like really nicely for me into the private sector. And it was a real challenge to do those the very high level, hundreds of millions of dollars type fraud operations, and also to be exploring the type of people that are involved in that type of offending.
They may think they're a bit different, but are they at their core the same?
No, they're different. Well, it's just thieves.
Yeah.
Even if they're just fraud, it's still a thief.
Yeah.
But they are quite different. Like the criminals that I dealt with in the 70s had a basic code that they lived by. You looked after your woman, you looked after your bros, and you made sure that anyone that crossed you was sorted out. It's sort of the same thing with the fraudster, I suppose. But they don't have any codes like that. They think that they're exceptional.
Wow.
They think they're smarter than everybody else, but they're just as vicious. And they don't think they're actually committing crime, and therefore they don't think they should be going to prison. So they'll be scared. Those guys are really terrified of going to prison, the white-collar crime type guys. Whereas the guys that I was with in those days, they knew that if they were 5 years on the outside, then they did 6 months inside. Well, that's just the price of being a criminal.
Kind of their career plan. Those guys and girls that you were dealing with have not, the way that they were brought up, if you really peel the layers off the onion, there's one story in there about, and there's probably many more, you could probably write 5 more books, but there's a story there about someone, and I won't mention who it is, but, you find out later in the book that as a child, he was tied to a table, treated like, no, I wouldn't even treat an animal like that. You're treating human beings like that and expecting them to come out all rosy and law-abiding. Sometimes it's not their fault that they come out doing what they do. Yes, we've got to stop them from doing it, but you can have some sort of understanding that they didn't have a great deal of choice.
Exactly, that's exactly right. It's quite sad as well when you learn about that and you hear that in an intimate setting, talking about those types of things. You start to think about how society allowed that to occur.
Yeah. Do you have a fear that someone will read the book and think, hang on a minute, I've still got a grudge against that guy?
A lot of those guys from those times some of them are deceased and that now. So I'm not particularly concerned about that era. It's different with the fraudsters because they've got a family now, and so they are a different kettle of fish. But the threats are reasonably limited. And the other thing is that since 20, that's the lifestyle that I've lived all the way along. So it's just part of the game.
Yeah. And I guess it would help also having someone who that you're partnered with that also knows exactly what you're talking about because they've been through it themselves. They're one tough cookie as well.
She's the perfect wife. She
is the perfect wife. I wouldn't cross her, that's for sure.
I don't plan to either in the future.
This book has I could talk to you for hours, Mark. You know how some people say, I should write a book, and then you read your book and you're like, no, I think Mark's got this one covered for a while. And you're also that person, if someone says, who would you want at a dinner party? Anyone, Jesus or Hitler or, someone interesting. I'd go, no, just move them out. I'll have Mark, thanks.
Oh, thank you for that.
Unbelievable. The book is called Crime Time. It's out now.
It is out now in all good bookstores and online for those that are locked down in Auckland.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. If you are locked down in Auckland feeling sorry for yourself, have a read of this book, Crime Time, and you won't feel sorry for yourself anymore. I can assure you of that. And it's a fantastic book written by Mark Van Leewarden. Mark, we could talk for hours about this book, but so people should just go and read it.
Yeah, well, I hope they do. I hope they do, because it'll give them, hopefully, a bit of an understanding of what it was like out there and some of the things that agents before me and after me have done too. So the book's sort of a testament to those as well, as agents as well.
Yeah. Oh, well said. Mark, congratulations on the book. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm looking forward to the second one. You've got to write another one.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
We are your local 106.3 Beach FM.